But I'm gonna butt in, and yes, I'm going to do in this next round, yes, you guys have seen it, a Poetic license, ta-da, with a couple, I think I'm gonna do 3, from the current issue of cc&d, Touching the Moon, photography by John Yatko. And they are going to be, guess what, periodic table poems. They are for one element, but I happen to have 3 of them. This first one appears not only in Touching the Moon, but also in the periodic table of poetry. And they are all for the element astatine. This is astatine. Everything shatters with you, you know, and I'm left picking up the pieces after dealing with only fractional amounts of you. I've only been able to infer what you're like by knowing your brethren, as everyone around me and all the gapers gawk and the decay grows. In your twisted way, you come from the decay of others, and what do you leave in your wake? More radioactive destruction as all around you slows down to stare until you instantly corrode you down to the basics in the world. And yeah, what was left after you were gone was so much more stable than what you were, but it really is only after so much of your destruction that you left blood dripping down to the street. So all I can think is that this continued decay is your contribution. This radioactivity, short-term flash of decay, that is you. I've tried to learn. I've tried to study these microscopic parts of you to make sense of you. But whether or not you ever leave enough, well, from what you've shown me, I have to keep reminding myself that despite your destruction, despite the decay of yours, I have to keep going. Because when it comes down to you, when it comes down to what you do, well, this happens all the time. I know that doesn't say much. Thanks. But I have to show that I did perform this in shows. Yes, some of you guys have seen that I would have this. I've got this plugged into nothing, so why is it even plugged in? That I would have this jump image with the astatine image, but I actually happen to also do this in a thing at the Gallery Cabaret that was called After the Apocalypse, where there was a chance to read some periodic table poems. Dan might recognize that lovely shot of Chicago in the background, the painting of Chicago on the back of the Gallery Cabaret when I was reading there, doing shows for that for After the Apocalypse. But I also am going to do a shorter one and a long one for astatine, because this one has nothing to do with that poem, but it appears not only in Touching the Moon. I love showing this shot of John's that he took for the moon. It was really cool. But it also appears in the Twitterverse periodic table of poetry. There are a bunch of really short poems. And when I had the chance with this one, if I came up with a poem and had an image with it, I would use the image as well. So I'm going to actually read this on the screen and then show you the image and see if you can even make it out, because it's kind of hard to see because it's light, because there's a poem over it. But this poem is titled, Astatine's Rarity May Save Us from Cancer. You come from the decay of others, radioactive destruction in your wake, one of the rarest elements on Earth. You're so unstable, but a part of you, astatine 211, may actually weakly penetrate cancer cells. Could this rare element have saved my mother before cancer took her away forever? Short one. And it was just about, because a lot of the times, and that's a shot of my mom and me at my wedding day, really hidden high, really well hidden in the background, but a lot of the elements that are higher up in the periodic table, they're discovering that they will be able to help people with different kinds of cancers. Some of them would be to show and be able to make them visible when they're doing x-ray scans and things like that. But so I just thought that was cool to see about one of the isotopes of astatine for helping to decipher cancer. But this last one is similar to that first one, I guess, for astatine, which was delved off of little bits of a poem of mine called, he's got my book, This one, and you're going to hear it. If you could find the page. I see this guy holding the book up at the Zoom meeting. This one, which is actually something Robin Fine really liked this poem, and she'd want me to read this all the time. It's kind of similar to the first, but it shows elements of the other poem, Fantastic Car Crash. This is Acetine in a Fantastic Car Crash, and it is in both, yes, Touching the Moon and the Periodic Table of Poetry. This is Acetine in a Fantastic Car Crash. I'll see if I performed it in shows. I might show you that as well. Why not? This is Acetine in a Fantastic Car Crash. And by the way, I started doing this before. That's number 85 in the periodic table. That's AT, in case anybody cares. So that's there you go. Acetine in a Fantastic Car Crash. And our life is one big road trip now. And we set the cruise control and we make our way down the expressway. And most of the time we're just moving in a straight line and the scenery blurs. There's nothing to see. But I know what's inside of you and I know what you're made of. There's no such thing as a calm with you. You are a fantastic car crash. You stop traffic in both directions. In your twisted way, you come from the decay of others. And what you do leave in your wake? More radioactive destruction is all around you as everyone slows down to stare. And the gapers gawk and the decay grows. Everything shatters with you, you know. It's a spectacular explosion. Until your instability corrodes you down to the basics in the world. And yeah, what was left of you after you were gone is so much more stable than what you were. But still, I duck and cover as metal flies through the air. Every time you leave the scene of your accident, I'm left picking up the shards of glass from the windows. You know, the glass breaks into such tiny little pieces. They look like ice. It takes so long to pick up the pieces, and even though I'm careful, I'm still picking up the pieces after dealing with only fractional amounts of you, and I've only been able to infer what you're like by knowing your brethren, while I'm stuck here picking up the pieces, and I'm still on my knees, and that glass cuts into my hands because it was only after so much of your destruction that you left blood dripping down to the street. I think of this as your contribution to this fantastic car crash that is you, that is me, that is us. I've tried to learn, I've tried to study these microscopic parts of you to make sense of you. But whether or not you ever leave enough, despite your destruction, despite your decay of yours, I have to keep reminding myself that when it comes to you, this is what you do. This happens all the time. So I'll pull the glass from my hands and wave my hand to that line of traffic. Go on. Keep driving. This happens all the time. There's nothing to see here. There's nothing to see here. Yeah, that stupid grin, that stupid jump photo has to go with the Acetine and a Fantastic Car Crash. It has to. So, and I'm not going to show you guys. Oh gosh, I am going to show you. I see I've done a shows. Holy cow, I did this in a number of shows. I pulled this off at Frankenstone Art Gallery, which was on Irving Park, in a show called Make People Think. And it's just really hard to see, but I'm wearing my 312 hat, which is, you know, what you have to do to represent Chicago, I guess, when you're in Chicago. One time when Francois Leroux, I don't know if Dan ever saw the Ha Man of South Africa when he came. He would do shows, and one time he did a show at Kathleen's house, and I was the opening act for him, set to his music, and I was reading a bunch of periodic table poem things to his music. And at one point I even had a couple of chemist friends show up in Wisconsin at the Brat Stop, which is a little restaurant, Brat Stop, and I was just reading periodic table poems. I know, as crazy as it was, I'm there at a bar, two chemists, I'm like, name an element, what would you like? And they would call off an element and I would read for them. So, anywho, there is my call, and I don't know how many more images I'm going to show. but I thought I'd pull it off while I could. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to that. I might give you one more CC&D thing in the next round. I'm going to then silence myself and say, please, Zoom host, and thank you for putting up the thing for everybody to give you a cup of coffee for this thing, because I've already got it, so I know where I can get it and give you money. Give you your coffee, because we all need to be wired. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for our Zoom host for the next round. David, the stage is yours.
Thanks so much. It's great that you can take requests for our periodic table thing. So I think
I had a couple chemists there, and I'm like, what element would you like? Because I've read them. Why? Tell me, what one would you like? And I'm like, really? You want carbon? You know, why are you picking such basic ones? Why don't you ask for, like, you know, can I read to you 118 because I use a Russian accent and talking about discovering the guy? You know? I was like, come on, but it was fun. It was fun. Livermorium. I'm like, yeah, it was cool that we were asking for stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so now, yeah, take it away.